world of YouTube. Triple say it. I needed to go over some more details in the bear with me. It's my screen. In my Zodiac case, want to go straight to this, where here we have in 2002 a portrait DNA profile that did not match Allen. Would be Arthur Allen, or Arthur Lee Allen, was developed from a 33-year-old Zodiac envelope. Investigations in the San Francisco and Valadro refused to rule out Allen as a suspect on the case. In 2004, San Francisco Police Department deactivated that Zodiac their Zodiac investigation, but it remains open in these other counties, and Allen is still the prime and only suspect. Now, Arthur Lee Allen, yes, well known as this was the guy who portrayed him in the movie, fingers on his face. This is the kid that pointed Allen out. Now, whether or not Allen did do something to that kid, I still do not believe that Allen is the Zodiac Killer. And you know what? They did get obsessed with this guy, Allen. And it's pretty funny how he spells his name. Like Jennifer Lee. That plays the mother in Back to the Future. And, she played in, not Jennifer Lee. What the hell is her first name? I know her last name's Lee, but she's also played in Red Dawn. With the original Red Dawn with Patrick Swayze. And, in the movie, he wears a shirt that says L-E-E. But, it's funny, this guy didn't like nobody call him Arthur. For some apparent reason. But what I don't understand with this guy, that the Zodiac Killer had glasses. Here's the other guy, Richard Rick Marshall. He was another one that they claimed that he was. And they were getting obsessed with this guy. They were, really going after people to reveal this guy's name. But between him and Arthur, these two guys just are not, being the Zodiac Killer. And one thing is, here's Arthur's writing in one of the letters from, the Zodiac. And as you can see, Arthur's writing is very, very just distinctive and sloppy. Uh, but also, there's quite a few things in the movie that I learned that Liegh was not the Zodiac Killer. And I'll tell you, I mean, this is what Liegh looked like in real life. Now, don't get me wrong. There's the two prime suspects there, Liegh, and there's what's his name, Rick. So Liegh and Rick. But as you can see, that Arthur does not have a crew cut. And one of the main things that lead me that he's not the Zodiac Killer is the glasses. Whether or not he wore them to read, or let alone he worked in a factory and he wore safety glasses, maybe for blood splatter. But other than that, this man was never seen with glasses, especially in the movie. And the Zodiac Killer supposedly always wore glasses. The other thing about Liegh that suspects me not to be him is when they interviewed him and they talked about the bomb being blown up to kill kids on a bus. Now, if this don't make you believe that he is not the Zodiac Killer, then I don't know what will. You know, whether or not he wore glasses, this guy was a pedophile, child molester. And that's why they were targeting him. But there's the key word, child molester. Now why, and think about this, just think about this. Why would a child molester want to go around killing adults? But yet they say he did more damage to the men than to the women, or to the women than the men. That's what it was. Because, obviously, yeah, he did do more damage to the women because he didn't like women. And he didn't do much to men because, he liked men, but then again, he was a child pedophile. Now, think of this. Now, when he was interviewed about blowing up the bus, he literally, his reactions really not only disturbed me, but really put the point and the nail into the coffin with the hammer and the head on the nail for him not being a Zodiac Killer, because you gotta think, he got all offended. And I'm sure they reenacted his interview the proper way they did it in real life. And for this man to say, that's just, no. He literally got offended. And I believe he said that, that's sick. No. He's pretty much saying I would not do that. That's right. He would not do that. And you want to know why? Why would he want to harm what he wants to rape or what he wants to get his rocks off on? He wouldn't kill boys. He wants to rape children. You don't want to hurt him, because if he hurts them, he can't rape them. And that right there, that interview right, that reaction right there, I knew right then and there for a fact, even though I said it before, that ain't him. That was the main thing that made me believe also that he was not the Zodiac Killer. And the only thing that leads him to the Zodiac killings is just a simple timeline. Just a timeline. Because everything ceased when this man, I believe, went to jail. Everything ceased when he moved away or something. He did something. I think he went to jail for a long time. And then when he got back out, supposedly when he got back out, a letter came in. But one of the police officers was accused of faking the letter. And it says it at the end of the credits, that he was, released of all charges against him, trying to say he wrote the letter to get this guy back in trouble. But yet, it was the original Zodiac that wrote that letter. And you know why I think this was Zodiac did it within the Liegh timeline? Is honestly, I think the Zodiac Killer used him as a scapegoat. Used him as a pawn, so he would not get caught. That's why Liegh, and everything was done around his schedule. I'm for damn sure the Zodiac Killer had his eyes on him, following him, maybe, using him so he could do more damage, more collateral damage. Even though he said in his letters, I don't want to do this. Somebody help me. He didn't want the help. He wanted attention. And he wanted to bring forth people like this idiot to be one of his pawns so they wouldn't. I bet you there was a point in time that the police were on his tail. They were on his tail, but he threw Liegh in the middle of it, and that's what I think the conspiracy came up with him, and everybody was obsessed. And the cartoon writer and from the newspaper was obsessed with Liegh because he's the one that found out the timeline. He's the one that, affiliated everything with this guy that the Zodiac did. But it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. But then again, I just read you a thing that they said that they found a letter with a DNA not of Liegh. So what does that tell you? This is not the man. He was a pawn of the Zodiac Killer. Whether or not, he used them because they were getting on his tail just to throw him out there. Or maybe he didn't like Liegh and they were hoping to catch him and, get him in trouble. But everything stuck to its own meaning, to its own guns. And the DNA was a big part of this. And surprisingly, the Zodiac left DNA. But it was not his. But still, whose was it? And of course, once again, obviously this guy, the real Zodiac Killer was off the radar. Didn't probably have no prints. Didn't have nothing in any type of system because I think maybe he was just someone that was really bored with himself and started doing something, for fun. But, of course, everything that Liegh did and, finding out the Zodiac was using a book of a man being a hunter to the man being the most dangerous hunter of hunting game. Liegh enjoyed that movie or book too. And that's why they tried pinning it on him. That's why they said it was him. Because everything Liegh said and did, this guy, the Zodiac Killer, did some damn good homework on this man right here, Liegh. He probably threw in all these other guys too to get him, to get hot off his trail. But Liegh, something about him. And to save the best for last, I don't see a crew cut on this man, Mr. Liegh. And of course in the movie, they can assume he's bald. I mean, there was no crew cut. In the movie, if you see the movie, you see that this guy that portrays him is bald. And another thing that, with the cartoonist, he said, look, that guy dead in his eyes. And he did. He went up to Liegh because he thought he was the killer. But at the end of the movie, there's either two things that the cartoonist did. He either looked in Leigh's eyes because he was standing there at a hardware shop because he got out. Because, of course, obviously, child molestation charges don't last long in jail, Really demented justice system we have here. But he started getting angry, and as you can see here, he don't look like a man, right? He type of man you probably want to mess with. Unless you have balls of steel. He does look like a very violent man that could go off his rocker, and he did show some, hostility just because everybody kept bugging him. But I'm sure this is the way he looked at the cartoonist guy. But two things I think why the cartoonist just backed off and walked away. One, either this man was really scaring him, or two, he knew that this was not the man. He knew right away when he looked into his face. The cartoonist backed away like, wow, this ain't the guy. So, there's two things that led to me to think in the movie what the cartoonist was thinking in his head. One, he was either getting petrified of this man and didn't want to get killed like everybody else, or two, he knew it was not him. So with that being said, I don't know who this last guy is. Lawrence Kane and Richard Garkowski. I don't know how it goes. Which one is which? Richard maybe to the right, or Lawrence to the left, or vice versa. But you can see why these two are suspects too. Hair up in there, over to the far right. But them are not crew cuts. That's a grease slicked hair, and that's a pretty much greasy, curly hair, not a crew cut. You could say Lee might have some small crew cut there, but it doesn't really look like one. It looks like the way the picture and how old it is. And this guy looks like friggin' Liberace, for Christ's sakes. He don't even look like he could beat up himself. What is his name? Rick Marshall. He looks like a big, overgrown idiot. But these are the main suspects. And Lee, as you can see at the end of the movie, they put out there that he's still the one. But yet they got all these suspects. And it's just... And I got click here to report a new suspect. Now, all in all, that guy who wrote the book, Time 17, this is the guy he accused of being Michael O'Hare. But as you can see, Michael O'Hare doesn't look anything as the Zodiac. To the real... his mouth goes straight across. He's got a bigger line that goes across under the bottom lip, which is Zodiac Killer at the bottom of his lip is very small lined. But who knows if this is even an accurate picture. But yet he wears glasses. And you can tell right away that don't look like Lee. No frickin' way. Because Lee has a fat, round face, and if this is an accurate portrait of him, his chin line goes to a V. But that leads me to one more thing about Lee and this man. And the movie, meaning the Zodiac, not Lee. But in the movie, this friggin' sketch, I did see it, but it was very briefly. It looked like a recopy portrait, but they never showed this or who gave the description. They never showed this. They showed it, but it was very briefly, and it looked like it was redrawn. And I wouldn't even be able to pause the movie fast enough to catch a picture of it. That's how fast and quick it went through the movie. But yet they did not put this up on the walls, or they didn't put it up so they can look at him to study his face. And that was in the movie. The only thing in the movie was Leigh. Everybody had an infatuation with Leigh. And then leads one more thing, and then I'm going to end it here. That there was this party that was thrown. And the cartoonist guy literally got an interview with a person who was there. And this is one of these parties now where they invite everybody. And supposedly this Zodiac Killer was there. But the lady couldn't remember her name, and then she did mention a name, and it did come up as Rick Marshall, I believe it was. I think it was the Rick guy. Whoops. Yeah, I think it was Rick that she said, but first she said Sam. And then she said Rick. So with that being said, the mental institution guy that called the TV show now, which this really blows my mind, because how in the hell does a mental institution patient get access to make a damn phone call, and at that, to a fucking TV show? But at this party now, and in the movie, they show this Leigh being a dirty, filthy, rotten person. His house or trailer, when it was raided, was full of porn books, just trashed. You know, your ordinary furniture of the 60s that was just, you know, all just looked like junk. Everything looked like it came out of a junkyard and just put in there so he could live. And, another reason why they figured it was Leigh's, because they found all these guns. You know, everything pointed to him, but everything was not accurate and not used at the crime scene. Everything just they found wasn't even legit. It was there, don't get me wrong. The guy had some past of violence and everything. Everything was there. The guns were there, but it wasn't used at the crime. And the most damnedest thing about all this is that the man that was at the party that the woman said that was so strange, and the lady who hosted the party, who was the one that ended up dead a week later, wore a suit. Now, don't you think for a fact that if the Zodiac Killer comes in with a suit, they're looking up guns and all this other stuff, bullets, casings, and not anything matched, but they didn't even look for the suit in Leigh's house if it was so much to say Leigh was there. But then again, this woman couldn't even remember because she was probably all plastered on drugs and, you know, drinking. But she couldn't even give a description of the guy. Just a guy in a suit. His name was Sam. Oh, no, Rick. So she didn't even remember the name. But if Leigh was there and Leigh wore a suit, they didn't even look for that damn suit. It didn't even exist. Whether he burned it, threw it away in the trash, who knows? But everything else there didn't match. Everything else was inconclusive to everything that was found already in the case. Between bullet shells, blood stains, all this, blah, blah, blah. And Leigh not matching the DNA on the envelope. That's why I say this Leigh is not the damn Zodiac Killer. And whoever this man was that came in a suit, this is going to blow your mind. Now, this don't have nothing to do with this case, but I had to do this. I had to put this in. And it was about a man who murdered some woman, and he was a guest at a house. But for goddamn sake. And then when I seen all this, right? It's like, wow, what's really going on here? Damn it. Check this out. This guy, Mr. Christopher Chichester, wearing a suit. This was on Unsolved Mysteries. I seen this before. It came up again. But this guy in like the late 80s, I believe, early 90s. Although maybe I just thought it would be funny to put it up, but he was a guest at a house. Some woman ended up dead. He was the killer. But ain't that funny? He does kind of resemble that goddamn Zodiac Killer there. Yeah, Christopher Chichester. Oh, jeez. If anybody gonna throw something in there, I thought I'd just throw him in there, but the only thing missing are them lines in the head. But then again, people, remember, the lines in the head. See them distinctive lines, and they literally said, them distinctive lines. Right? Oh, take a damn good look at Arthur. 'Cause that man don't have them distinctive lines in his head. Yeah, that's right. This guy don't, that guy don't. There is another guy, though. Did I save that picture? I think I did. Oh, here's Mr. Liegh once again. Without the gold tee. Remember this one I showed. And remember the distinctive of the skull and the indent of the skull here at the temple. No lines in his head. No distinctive lines. And yes, folks, he is bald. I forgot I had this. He is bald. Huh? Yeah. That's why I say Liegh is not the killer. And his face don't go into a V. He's got a fat face. That, let alone right there, folks, is what it is. Say what you will. But, I don't think I did. I got save that picture. Damn it. I lost it. Where did I put that picture? Oh, this guy. Showed him before too, but they're the lines, and you do not see them lines in Liegh's head. But then again, these lines here, and this guy, the top line goes straight up and over. And even if it did do a little bump and indent down here, it looks like it does more of a straight and up. The bottom line, even this one curves down overward. His goes downward and up in a loop. I mean, in a U shape. This one goes up and down. This one goes down and up the bottom. So them lines don't even match this guy's head. Even if he was to raise his eyebrows, them lines look like they go outward. And this guy goes similar the same way upwards. The other ones go downward and out. His goes upward and across. So you can clearly see, that's right. Even this ain't the guy. But I tell you, man, Liegh, they're obsessed with him. They still think he is the man. There's even another guy down here, but this guy don't even get the friggin' lines in his head that they speak of. But oh no, folks, that's right. Oh, wait a minute, forgot this guy. He looks like he's got an upper buck tooth area in his teeth. Kind of like sticks out the upper lip. And the Zodiac doesn't. So, all these suspects. And he don't have a crew cut. And all these other men don't have crew cuts either, man. Even Liegh. He was bald. This guy didn't even... He was the one blaming the other guy, so... But he could have been it, but he ain't. You know? It's a crazy thing out there, folks. Crazy thing. He even said this guy was him. But his eyes are way... And his eyebrows are way too thick. And his lips go downwards as the Zodiacs go straight across, pretty much upwards. And he has some big Dumbo ears. But Lee Arthur, I'm ruling out, folks, big time. And in the movie, they're obsessed with that man. Yes, they are. But he's not him. It will always be a mystery, folks, always. And until that DNA on that envelope is really, truly searched, yeah, they're not going to find this man ever. Till that next video, be safe, take care, out.